Welcome to the Industry Angel Podcast. We hear from the best business minds across the globe, entrepreneurs, social influencers, marketing mavens, and sales rock stars. We've got them all. Here comes your weekly dose of inspiration with your host, Ian Farrar.
Okay then, so I'm going to start with Dylan, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course.
What is the scene like up north?
See what you did there, Ian?
You see what I did there?
Very, very punny.
It was your idea, that pun. Actually, you sent me that pun on email. Yeah. What's the tech scene like?
Really strong. So there's a vast array of people doing stuff at kind of every level. So you've got the likes of people who are maybe still at uni or graduating uni or doing stuff on evenings and weekends and putting apps together, throwing stuff out there and seeing if it works. And that's quite healthy. And then beyond that, you've got people who are looking for kind of that first round of investment and that first bit of rocket fuel, if you like, to get their business going off the ground. So there's quite a few of those at the moment, benefiting from the likes of North Ltd Ventures in the region, who are backing a lot of apps and various other investors. And then you've got the more established apps that have some success and have built kind of tech companies around them, so the likes of Gymplan. And then beyond that, you've got kind of more enterprise level, larger, more successful and established tech firms like Performance Horizon, Partner Eyes, SoPost, and the kind of larger, potentially global now ventures who've taken off and started up here, but then scaled out and set up bases around the country, around the UK, and around the world indeed, kind of taking their product beyond our shores. So yeah, so really active, really vibrant, quite a strong app development community in terms of mobile apps. There's companies like ours, great companies like Hedgehog Lab locally as well, who are doing amazing things globally. And there's also quite strong product teams locally as well. So the likes of Ricochet, who are building some awesome web application-based sales software, and many other examples like that. So yeah, it's a really rich and really vibrant scene. It's fantastic to be part of. There's meetups like this, and there's also more technical focused ones, which is perhaps more my comfort zone, to be honest, where I'd normally be found. Where there's more sort of awkward people who don't really talk to each other, but just look at the front. There's a good scene of those, and there's also a really strong community on the likes of Twitter and LinkedIn as well, of people who are just trying to support each other and just meeting each other for coffees to kind of give each other advice, both on the tech side and the business side. So yeah, it's awesome.
Fantastic. And just in terms of Twitter, any Twitter users here? Yeah. Have you shared this already? Have you took a photograph and shared it? Yeah. Yeah, make sure you do. Actually, Dylan, you led me to something which is quite interesting there.
Yeah.
Bootstrap or borrow?
Oh, it depends. There's no answer. So okay. Personally, for my current venture, Nebula Labs, bootstrap totally. So we got a small amount of seed money from Newcastle University, who've been really supportive and fantastic kind of partners and really helped us at the early stage. Through their founderships program, which is like a pre-accelerator program. And then from that, we've been able to build a business focused around developing apps for clients and also some internal stuff ourselves as well, which is really cool. But for some companies who need to be able to launch something and then want to reach kind of global scale within a year or two, the likes of Gymplan, for example, there's no real choice but to borrow, whether that be through like equity investment or through a loan or convertible note or something. So I think it's totally dependent and really bespoke. So there's no like one shoe fits all, which is a really terrible answer. I'm really sorry.
No, I totally understand. It's like any business, really, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think there's a rich variety of companies doing both in the Northeast, which is really good. Yeah. And you know, one couldn't exist without the other. And yeah,
that's a really good answer. Actually, you were mentioned in Dispatches today. We had a presentation from Jeff from Digital Union. And your name was mentioned, so one to watch apparently.
Not wanted.
That was Eimear. Let's move on with this then. So in terms of, so my role in business coaching and commercial stuff, you often see clients who say, yeah, I want an app. Okay. Where does it start? Can you do an MVP? Can you do a prototype of an app first and then let them maybe... Radu, could you pick that one up? Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Based on what I've seen in the last quite a few years is I think it's a lot better if they start with an MVP, with the minimum thing that you can build or not necessarily build, but test. There is a business need for whatever you want. It's very easy to just watch some ads or open your phone and you have a lot of apps there and they're like, okay, that's the answer for everything. But there's a business case behind that, and often entrepreneurs, especially first-time entrepreneurs, they just start and they want to build an app. But without first validating the users need it, what the users actually want, and that's the first step. First validate it, not necessarily building something. So you can build a very small app, very bare bone, which is brilliant. You can take it even a step back and build something even less than an app. Test that. Then build the MVP. Then invest into a proper build. Because if you invest all your money into a nice, shiny app, that's brilliant. You'll have a nice, shiny app. And then you find out the users didn't want that. They wanted something else. And you don't have any money to build that something else. Not fun.
Now, this is a really interesting answer from a developer because I'm going to massively generalize here. Any developers in the room? Oh, you want to flex your development muscles though, don't you? You want to show what you can do. And with commercially, like, can you just stop doing that? We don't want that. And like, maybe the client doesn't want that, but I know, but it'll be great. Did I just generalize and hurt you all? Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Is that not true?
No.
Okay.
It's okay. Did I answer your question?
No, I was surprised. Okay then. Let's have a think then. So, what's the first stage of building that? What do you do?
If I'm building it for myself, it depends on the product. The first thing I'm trying to do, and I'm not saying I over the years I went from spending a year and a half building an app nobody wanted, and it's tough. Nadia here in the room, she was very supportive because that year and a half was of my evenings and weekends and holidays, and that wasn't fun. And now I can test an idea in a few days. But it's about finding that's the smallest thing that you can build. If all I want is to build an app, then I will build an app because I can do that over a few days. But that's only because I can do that over a few days. If I want to test an Uber-like app, I will go and talk to people. It's the easiest way. Go talk to your potential customers. Read the mom test. It's a brilliant book. Read the mom test. Go have some interviews and see how and see what you learn from there. Then go and build something and find someone. If you can build it, well, there are like 5 people in the room, 6 people who can do that. But if you can build that, that's very good. If not, go and talk to someone who focuses or specializes in this bit. Because if you go to a developer or an agency asking to build something, they will build that. Some will push back and say, are you sure you want to do that? I mean, it's the 10th Tinder clone. It's probably not going to work. But I'm not generalizing. It's clearly not either one of us, because that's why we're all on the same panel. But there are a lot of people who just want to build things for you and happily take your money. But you can first validate that. I can't stress that enough. First validate, then build something, build a website, get some money from the users. This is another very important bit. When someone pays you to solve their problems, that means that is an actual problem they want solved. If I've built a product at a point when I've had people telling me, shut up and take my money. Like literally use these words. Built it in 3 months. They've developed amnesia. Nobody wanted it anymore. 3 months, down the drain. Another 3 months to build what they were kind of willing to pay. Nope. Failed product. Either find an agency that pushes back and pushes you to go and validate that, have a proper business use case, or just first find that.
Good stuff. Eimear, if I could ask you this one, in terms of you building the app, do you rely on someone to specify it really strongly before it gets to you?
So we get kind of a variety of clients. Some of them have like a very clear vision, and they'll give us like designs and say we want it to do this, that, and the other. Some of them are a bit more broad, and it's kind of sometimes it's like, oh, should we ask them? Should we double check? Sometimes you kind of you have some idea and you make something quite basic and you see what they think of that. Yeah, it's quite varied in what people present to us. Yeah.
Is the build of it really important? Because I can't really see behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. I can't look under the bonnet, so it might look okay, like smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
But so.
I don't know, really. We try and do obviously a good job. I generally try to build things with the intention that they will probably change. So I don't try and make things too like rigid. And if there's some way, if I can do something, and it would take maybe like 10 minutes more for it to then be quite changeable in the future, I would rather do that than do something like pristine and perfect and neat and tidy, and then they say, oh, we want it differently.
Yeah.
I think apps do change a lot in the development process. Like, even like on a month-by-month basis, you look back at what you like screenshots of the month before, and it's so different. So I think just having things that can be changed easily is quite important.
Good stuff. So, Mark, I'm going to point this at you because you deal with a number of different companies and clients of yours. As a freelancer, are you freelancer, would you say, at the moment?
I work for Ricochet in Newcastle, kind of a few days a week.
Yeah.
That's the majority of my time, and then the rest of the time is spent freelancing with other startups and SMEs.
I'm going to massively generalize again. Business would be easier without clients and staff. It'd be all right. What's it like dealing with clients who don't get the technical side?
It can be hard, but that's kind of part of your job.
Okay.
Is to kind of put it in terms that they can understand, kind of rationalise decisions, gain the trust ultimately. Kind of, they're the ones paying your bills. Like, you've just got to hope they trust you, and then you trust them back. It's like it's relationship managing, isn't it? Mm-hmm. As soon as you're dealing with clients and customers and things.
Yeah. Do they expect a quick ROI though?
Don't we all?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it kind of, all this kind of goes back to what Radu was saying. Was kind of, until you're absolutely sure that you do want, in this case, an app, and that you're completely sure kind of what it's going to do and what problem it's going to solve, etc. Kind of, if you're not settled like that, you're going to fail, and the relationship will fail. And I think this is one thing that these guys next to me do quite well, is they understand that startup journey, and they understand kind of if they should be building X or Y, or they should be kind of learning a bit more first. So I like to think that kind of when you are starting those relationships with clients, that I'm not just going to build them something for the sake of building it, or like go down certain routes. Like, I want them to make the right decision because it makes my job easier.
Yeah, no, it does. So in terms of the technical side of the client, do you need to bring them up to speed much though?
Again, they need to understand enough that, again, like, you can rationalise the bills they're paying, if that's kind of infrastructure costs or my own costs and things like that. But yeah, it is what it is. I'm trailing off here.
No, that's fine. But I'll tell you what, so you've got the app built, okay. Promotion, this is going to be a wide one. Who wants to pick this one up? So you built the app. How do we get it out there? How do we get people to download it? How do you measure success? What is success? Who wants to grab this? Oh, Radu's all over this.
I'll start while Radu picks the mic. I think there's two questions there. Okay. The latter one, how to measure success, which is, I think, something we're going to go into. And also kind of how do you market it? And the marketing thing, it's similar again, is kind of, you need to be able to like rationalize decisions before you do it. It's very, very easy, and a lot of companies just throw money away advertising. Sorry. Yeah, a lot of companies just kind of, it's so easy to burn money. Facebook, Twitter, etc. Very, very happy to take your cash. And until you know what you're doing, until you know what you're measuring, like, don't go near it. Would be my advice. As soon as you kind of set up in a way where you can make informed decisions on data and your analytics, then that's when you can start to try and understand your audience and how to market to them and start that feedback loop.
Very similar. Yeah. So it ties back to knowing what problem you're solving and for whom. And once you know that, you know how to reach those people because you've already had that conversations. You just need to do that at scale. There is one thing that people don't really expect is that especially first-time founders, it's your job. If it's a B2B product, you need sales. If it's a B2C product, you need marketing. It's as simple as that. A lot of apps, because we're talking about apps, but that's generic for most software, is being built by technical people who love building stuff, and that's good. They have a great product, but they don't go and think what's after that. It's at least the same effort after you build a product to market it, to get it in the hands of people. And the easiest way is to find someone, a co-founder who's really good at that. The other way is to learn it for yourself. I don't think, except Mark Zuckerberg and very few others, there are very few entrepreneurs who had massive success without being good at marketing or sales. It's as simple as that. So you need to get good at that, and you need to start with it. Make sure when you validate your idea, you also validate how you're going to reach those customers.
Do you agree with that, guys? Yeah.
Yeah, massively. So I think the best scenario is the one that kind of Mark described initially, of all the marketing being informed by the data and by the analytics that you have and the tracking that you have, so that literally in an ideal world, every pound that you're spending is generating a return, and you know it is because you've got funnels set up. You can see a group of users coming through here, some drifting off, some paying for your product, some paying for various parts, and then that going back into kind of funding the ads. So the ad spend is always generating ROI and more users and more traction and more business.
Can we talk Apple? In terms of getting on the radar and how your app can be promoted through the App Store and charts. Has anyone got any experience of that?
Apple is a very simple company, like most gatekeepers are. They want to make money, and they've built this ecosystem of very polished products with really nice interactions with that are a joy to use. iPhones, Macs, a lot of their hardware products. They love highlighting products, apps that help them sell more devices and make them look good. So if you make an app that solves a problem, because that keeps your users using it, and it's an app that's well polished with nice graphics, nice interactions, well thought out, sooner or later Apple will pick that up. It is a process in the end. It's a relationship that you need to build. Of course, you can't just sit in your bedroom, though it happened. But if you create a product that they want to highlight, they will highlight you. And when they do, the market is so big, it's insane. You can't. You only think, okay, so I'm in competition with another. Let's talk fitness, because Gym Plan is here. Hello, Paul. Let's talk fitness. So like, okay, if I'm building this app, that means I'm in competition with Strava or what. The market is hundreds of millions of users. Even if you have 0.01% of that market, it's a big business. So you just need to build a product that the gatekeeper needs, and that's Apple.
Yeah, I'm just going to push back on here. You've got all the money in the world, okay? I'm going to give you all the money in the world to promote your app. Okay, you're smiling. You just want the money, don't you? You're not getting money. The money's to promote the app, not for you, okay? What are you going to do? Where do you put your money? Who wants to pick this up?
Just a small answer. I'll create a marketing agency to get that money.
That's like saying you've got one wish and then you want more wishes.
Doesn't work like that?
No, it doesn't work like that. Okay. Answer the question. So you've got all the money. What are we going to do with it? What's best?
All of the money in the world. Probably.
Buy Apple.
Yeah. Step one, buy the company that takes 30% of all your profits. Probably understand the data. Like, data's hard. It takes time and it can take money to really, really understand the data. You look at kind of some of the things people have achieved, even in politics and things recently, just by kind of very niche targeting, understanding demographics, understanding the data. And I'd throw a lot of money at that, so that once I understand that, I can throw a lot of money at kind of really targeting those individual people on a mass scale. That's what.
That sounds really sinister, doesn't it?
Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking as I was kind of saying it. Was oh no, like
You're running for president, Mark.
In some parts of our society, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I'm not getting too political, but they do understand the algorithms and how to get in front of people, don't they?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Dylan, do you want to pick one?
I think what Mark said about kind of having the analysis of which niches to kind of pour the money into, and I think the way to kind of test that out in practice, unless you have access to the likes of Cambridge Analytica, is to spend a tiny amount of money on a lot of different streams. So testing out loads of different streams, so whether that be like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, etc., but also testing out targeting different demographics on there, and spend a tiny amount of money on each one and see which one kind of hits off the most, and then pour all the money in the world into the few that are.
Excellent. So I'm going to take all that money away from you now. Sorry. When do you pull the plug on a project?
When the next one, when a nicer one comes along. This is something that separates usually entrepreneurs or successful entrepreneurs from the rest, is that they don't quit. It's not, and this is is not black or white. You need to keep going forward, but not necessarily, okay, everyone is telling you that that's a bad direction. You say, no, I know what I'm doing, I'm going forward. It is a balance. But, and coming back to the analytics, the data doesn't lie. It's nowadays is so simple to measure your impact that it's a very big mistake not to have specifically analytics. They're really easy to implement. You implement them, you wait a few days, weeks, and then look at them like, oh, the users like that, they don't like that. Okay, it's easy. The same with marketing. Wow, I lost my train of thought.
You want the money, don't you?
Aren't we all motivated by that? Not necessarily to have the money, but what they can buy.
Wow.
Very deep.
Let's talk about the Northeast. Okay, what's it like as a region? I know I touched upon it at the top there, Dylan, about the scene. I was more thinking of a collaboration point of view, and that's not just collaborating in your particular industry, collaborating with other people, videographers, marketers, sales, whatever. What's that scene like? Has anyone got any experience on that? Dylan, do you want to pick up that?
Yeah, certainly, yeah. Incredibly receptive, to be honest. So we are obviously a technology company, but we have really strong partnerships with companies who operate in the design space, for example, the marketing space, so we can kind of offer those services to our clients via a trusted partner, if you like.
Yeah.
So not trying to say that we can do everything, but say we can do this aspect and we know people who can do this aspect, and that scene is really rich, and we're always looking for kind of new links in that scene, and it's really cool to find out what other companies are doing and be able to work with them as well. And also even the bigger institutions. So at the moment we're doing like a research and development project with Newcastle University, looking at kind of usage of data to do with transport mode analysis, which is really cool. We've also done some collaboration work with Teesside University last summer, looking at the use of augmented reality in mobile apps, and that was some really like cutting edge stuff, and that was quite interesting and led to a few more internal projects on some of the products and IP that we create in our company. So that was really interesting and probably something that we wouldn't have looked at without their help. So it is a rich scene. I think you've got to put yourself out there, and you've got to be willing to kind of go and talk to people. But once you start doing that, you realize how many people are around you and are quite happy and willing to be really good at what they're doing, but also willing to help you out and willing to kind of put work your way in what you're good at as well.
I'm guessing there must be a lot of continuous development then, tech changes so quickly. How do you keep yourself up to speed? Who wants to pick this one up? Go on, Eimear, let's hear from you.
Just general tech, keeping up to speed with it.
Anything you want.
So I think a lot of people will go home on an evening and work on something else, which is not something that I do, because I spend so much time looking at a screen. But I think working at Nebula Labs, if there's any time where I don't have like anything urgent to do, I will Google what's new in Android development, and I'll look at it and I'll learn it, and then I'll put it in projects that we have if it makes sense to put it in there. So I mean, there's a lot happens in tech, like new stuff's released all the time. I just do Android development, so I can't imagine being like a full stack developer and trying to keep up with everything. I imagine that would be a lot. But yeah, I think just any downtime that I have at work, I will learn something new. And if there is something really interesting, then I will take my laptop home and work on it. But I think work-life balance is still important, even with all the new stuff in tech.
It certainly is, yeah. Does anyone else want to pick up on that one in terms of software development? How you do it? Or do you?
With tech is like med school. You always learn. There are very few cases where being stuck with a single technology works, and that's only because nobody else is in that technology. But if you want, for example, in app development, you need to keep up. You need to always test and implement what's being released by Google, by Apple. They love highlighting apps that highlight their new technologies, so it also increases your chances of being featured. What most developers do is that they create side projects. Usually those projects don't go anywhere. They're just like a weekend app, let's test this. They test it, they see how it works, then at a point the project comes along and you implement it in production. But you need to always do that. Things change so fast that if you don't do it, on one hand you lose in getting interesting jobs, but you also miss on making your life easier. Whenever they release, most companies when they release things, or when they usually push the boundaries, and both Apple and Google want to make our lives as developers easier because they make money out of us making money. So when, for example, on iOS, the new Swift UI has been launched in the fall. It's amazing. It allows you to build something that took probably days. You can build it in a day, and it works on any screen. So it makes your life easier as well.
As you were talking, I was laughing like a little 12-year-old boy in my head. Can't wait to throw this grenade in. Android or Apple or iOS?
It's probably about a 50-50 split here.
Is it?
I think me and Radu are very strong iOS lovers, and
Right.
Eimear and Mark are quite the other way.
I think they both have their merits. It's going to be very diplomatic.
That's very diplomatic, yeah.
That's the proper way to answer this question.
It depends what hat I'm wearing. As a user, Android.
Really?
As someone who wants to make money, Apple. Android users don't like spending money.
We don't pay for apps.
It's as simple as that.
Okay.
And you look at how much money Apple make and how much of that money comes from their services, we call it. Apple all the way in terms of business. Like if you're short on cash, don't even think about launching an Android app. Like
really,
you look at the percentages and you'll think, oh, look at this. It's over 50%. Dylan might know, but it's over 50% of the market share now is Android. As far as I'm aware, is that true?
Yeah, I think
it's
about.
So you've thrown all those people away, but the percentage of those that would actually have paid for your thing is like so much smaller compared to iOS. So like prove your concept on iOS first if you're going to choose one, and then go from there.
I think it depends on your business model as well, because if you're selling stuff outside of the app, then it might make sense to have a lot of eyes on it, therefore Android. But if you're selling stuff through the app or in the app, it might make sense to have users who are more willing to part with their cash through the app, so iOS. And I think doing some research into like your demographic almost, so if you're launching an app for people who are, say, into technology, Android might make more sense. If you're launching an app for general consumers and you want them to pay for things in the app, probably iOS. So I think it's something that you definitely need to do your time and sort of research into before commissioning anything. And I think it's also something that if you get wrong could end up costing you a lot of time and a lot of money. So yeah.
Should we do some market research in here? Yeah. For iOS? Yeah. Android?
Of the Android users, who has ever paid for an app?
Qualify that a little bit further.
Sure.
I would argue that for a mobile device, your telephone that you've got with you, Android is far better as a device. As a tablet device, iOS all the way.
Okay.
And I think that's the difference, because it isn't just standardised on whether or not it's a phone or a tablet. A lot of the users out there will blend both of them. So I'm iPad all the way, Android mobile device.
It's really interesting. Do you agree with that?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think the problem with developing for Android tablets, it's the same with Android phones, is there's a lot of devices. I think it's something that Apple kind of have, it's a bit easier to develop for Apple devices because there's kind of one or like a couple, but for Android devices you have to consider the whole range of screen sizes, and each manufacturer puts their spin of Android on it, so it becomes very difficult to make something that is good on all Android devices. So for tablets with the varying screen sizes, developers might not bother doing it properly or might not know that they're not doing it properly, but iOS, it's easier to get more consistent.
I think that used to be the case, but I think in recent years, I think it's just as hard.
Not just as hard.
Almost
You
as hard.
still have a set number of devices though.
Yeah.
It's a very large set, but yes.
I still believe that Apple here makes the developers' lives easier. There are ways when it doesn't work, but they're very opinionated, and they say, okay, this is the way you do things. It's my way or the highway.
Yeah.
And in development, I think that's healthy, because if you have a problem and nobody else had it, that means you're doing something wrong. So I think it's easier to do good things, not ethically. That's your ethics, right? But it's a lot easier to develop high quality than on Android, as I said.
Yeah. And I think having stuff like the Apple App Review, as much as it is annoying to developers sometimes, is a good thing to have generally overall in terms of ensuring that people are doing things in quite an opinionated, standardized to some extent way.
Tell me more about Dylan, because you're going to get me my soapbox here about Apple reviews and hacking them and paying for them.
Oh, no, I mean the app review process. So to get your app onto the App Store, a human.
I was in the App Store straight away.
I'm very passionate about that.
Well, from being podcasting and getting in the charts, people can hack getting in the charts by paying people to download, paying people to review. Is that a thing in development?
Should I tell people about the tenner you gave me before for that 5 stars?
It's 20 now. Yeah, I get it.
So for an app to be approved onto the Apple App Store, like a human has to use it and launch it and kind of verify it, and it can be as in-depth as they want, and they can go into kind of testing out all the features, or they can say, that looks sort of legit. But for Android, and I think this is changing at the moment, but previously you could literally put anything on the Android store and wait a while and it would just go live.
So previously on the Android store, you could upload apps that would track your location and without asking you. because they had pretty much no. They didn't test apps as they came out, and there was a way you could kind of hack it in. So recently they thought maybe we should think about security, and they've introduced reviews of apps. They didn't really mention it until they started doing it, and you now can't put apps on that track your location, so it's better now than it was. But yeah, it's something that they're trying to catch up with Apple on security, because it was pretty bad, but it's not quite as rigorous, I don't think, at the moment.
Andy, do you see the curveball that you threw then? You kind of started the Q&A off, so... Well, I think we'll do some Q&A, but before that, I've got a quiz. Now, I know nothing about app development, so I've Googled quizzes, right? Technical quizzes and answers. So, you two are on a team. First to tap the desk gets to answer, okay? It's like a really bad university challenge, okay? Should I start it?
Yep.
Yep.
Go
Right,
ahead.
okay. In list data type, is list data type supported by AIDL?
What?
Is
Is it?
I think it is.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes, Should I just make everything yes or no? What is AAPT? Is it Android Asset Processing Tool, Android Asset Packaging Tool, Android Asset Providing Tool, Android Asset Packaging Technique? Yes, sir?
One of the packages, the second one.
The second one? Yeah. It was the third one, but we'll just give it. Required folder when Android project is created.
Say that again.
Required folder when an Android project is created. Build / bin /
Build.
Nope.
No.
Big.
It's bin.
Yes, it is bin. Can you see my answers?
No. I can't see all the way here.
Is this 1, 2, 1? Can someone?
Yeah.
2-1. This is going really well. ADB stands for.
Android Device Bridge.
Get in. There you go.
Android?
Oh, so,
Yeah.
Quite biased.
I think I must have Googled Android quizzes.
Why does that exist?
I didn't. Is that 2-2?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is list data type supported by AIDL?
We've already had
Yes.
that one.
Yes, it is.
So you were listening.
Trick question.
Component which is not under the Android application. Content providers, resource externalization, applications, or notifications.
Content providers. The first one.
No.
The second one.
No.
The fourth one.
Language which is supported by Android for application development.
Java is one
Yes,
of them.
yeah, Java.
Kotlin, Java.
Yeah.
Do C++ as well, if you
3-2,
fancy
is
it.
it? 3-2? Let's go well.
In terms of Kotlin, you got this from a long time ago.
Java is still
Legacy
supported.
Right, last question then. What is my favourite app?
Gym plan.
Yes. The gaffer laughing at the back there. Right then, Q&A time. Does anybody want to ask the panel a question? If they do, we'll... Right, okay. I wonder if this will stretch somehow.
No.
Do you want to shout?
I can shout.
Or shall I repeat it? Shall I repeat your question? Keep it really...
Yes.
I've actually got a couple, actually. One, do you think there's going to be a shift from store-based apps to PWA apps?
I've got to repeat it for the listeners at home. So... yes, please.
Do you think there's going to be a shift from store-based apps like iOS Store, the Play Store, to PWA apps?
Do you think there's going to be a shift from stores to PWA apps?
Yeah, well, you're getting there.
Okay. I prefer crime writing.
We'll probably be divided here.
Sure.
Because on iOS, I doubt there'll ever be non-store apps. It helps their business, coming back to business, it helps their business, and it also is their way of keeping the content, the quality bar high. On Android, and that might change, and Android supports it, and supports it very well, and you create a PWA, and that's an app, and that's really easy to use, really easy to install. I like that. I wished it would be the case with Apple, but on Android, yes. On iOS, I doubt it will ever happen.
Yeah, similar thoughts. Is my immediate reaction is I do think there's going to be a shift like that, just because all the people smarter than me are saying there is. I don't know enough about it at the moment, but kind of it seems to be the trend that everyone's talking about. App development is hard, and it makes promises of making that process easier across multiple platforms, etc. However, the side note is exactly what Radu just said, which is Apple love that control, and like letting go of that right now doesn't seem like a thing that they're going to do. Time will tell.
Mm-hmm. Dean, did you want to extend on that question, or did you have another question?
Yeah, I'll skip. I don't want to take up too much.
Oh, well, I'll skip to Tom then. Yes, Tom.
This is a question for one for each, just a quick one. What's the most fun thing you do in your business?
Nice one. What's the most fun thing you do in your business?
Besides this, going on carpway walks.
Good man.
That sounds way better than anything we're going to say. I was just going to say machine learning stuff. So it's something I'm not really having.
No, he said fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not really anything I've had an experience with in the past, and it's fun. So yeah, AI and machine learning is stuff that I've kind of started playing with, and it's fun. It's interesting. It gives us less to do, right? The machines are doing it all. So
Yeah. Okay. Eimear, do you want to answer the fun question?
I find making apps really fun, just in general. It's really lame, isn't it? I don't know, there's so much you can make an app do, and I like learning new stuff that it can do.
Dylan, do you want to pull us out of this?
I'll try. I think the satisfaction of getting stuff out there into people's hands is really fulfilling, and it's really nice to see people using stuff that you've built, even if you think that could be better. The fact that they're using something, even if it's just okay, but they're getting by with it and really enjoying it, is really cool. And then on top of that, seeing feedback from them is really interesting, and again quite fulfilling to see things that you didn't think of being suggested, and also people using things in totally wrong ways to you, but using it nonetheless is really cool. And also people using it in the right way is really satisfying. So yeah.
Excellent. Good stuff. Oh, sorry, Radu has another answer.
Actual answer, and that's home automation. I think that is seriously cool, making your home smart and do a lot of things by itself and talk to it. When that doesn't work, Nadia is very pissed on me. But when it does, I didn't say that, all right? Very upset. Right. Yeah, beep. She's very upset when it doesn't work, but that is seriously cool. It ties into the AI, and yeah, I could do that all day. And when you have someone over and they're like, oh, so it does that. Oh, that is really nice. It's cool.
Good stuff. Another question?
I'll take one.
Yes, Andy.
So what's the thing that got you into technology?
What got you into technology?
define technology.
So you're all in the tech industry, right?
Yep.
So there's one thing at some point in your careers, your education, whatever, is decided this is the industry for me. And what is it for each of you?
For me, it was I started an electronic engineering degree at uni, and it just bored me because it was just maths. It was just maths for 20 hours a week, and then 5 hours of actually doing fun stuff. And I just kind of had enough of it, so I started in my own time doing the fun stuff, doing the practical things, and I won't bore you with the details, but that's kind of what grew, and I stopped doing the maths, dropped out of engineering and pursued that route instead.
I kind of accidentally got into it. Well, I was in school and I didn't know what I wanted to do, and everyone would say, "What do you want to do?" And I'd say, "I don't know," but I liked maths. But I knew I didn't want to do maths as a degree, so then people were like, "Why don't you try computer science?" So I thought, I'll try computer science, and I got to uni, and I thought it was quite fun. And then in my second year, we started doing Android apps, and I thought, this is really fun. And then it kind of just, from there, I did a bit more Android development, and then I started working at Nebula Labs, and it's great, but there wasn't really a point where I was like, this is what I want to do, these are the steps I need to get to it. I just kind of fell into it, really.
I was an incredibly sad child.
This is a question of therapy.
Have you got a couch I can lie down on? So kind of started out, I started kind of building computers when I was really young, like 7 or 8 with my granddad, and it was kind of good fun. And then I got really into Apple things, and I did the whole sort of Steve Jobs worshipping moment. And I got really into having a Mac, and that was lovely. And then when I was 13, the iPhone was kind of a thing, and I got one, and it was really cool. And I'd already made some websites, and I was like, can I do an app for this? And eventually I did. And it was really simple, and it sounds pathetically simple at this point. So it just told you your altitude above sea level using the iPhone's GPS chip. And this was in like 2009. I think it launched in May 2009. When I was 13, and I faked loads of forms to claim I was 18 and could put stuff on the App Store and stuff. Sorry, had parental consent to sign those forms in my mum's name and put stuff on the App Store. And it got quite popular. So within the first few weeks, I was getting like 150,000 downloads a week, charting in the top 20 apps in Italy, Switzerland, all the sort of mountainous alpine areas. It got really popular in Syria, which I'm quite concerned about now looking back. I don't really want to dig into that one too much. But I ended up getting something like, I think, about 1 million downloads in 2009, which was absolutely awesome and was huge at the time. And that was kind of a really affirming moment to, this is actually really cool, and this is something that I can do, being someone who I didn't think was very cool or very skillful or very clever. But this is something that I can do and kind of get out there and get into people's hands, and people actually like care about a little bit, at least enough to tap download and launch it a few times. And it was that kind of like affirming thing, and then just started doing other side projects, dedicating far too many evenings and weekends just building stuff that didn't really work. But yeah.
Good stuff. I think we've got time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions. Yes, Tom?
Is there an app out there that you wish you had made, and not because it made loads of money?
Oh my God.
Is there an app out there you wish you had made?
That's a good question.
Pretty much all of the top 20. They're really good apps. And I have to name one, right?
You've got to put your head on the block.
Besides gym plan.
Besides gym. You all so much money.
Was that invoice you at the end, Paul? Yeah.
You go first. I'm trying to
I've got
actually
no
name all
idea.
of you.
Can I check my phone? Go on, Dylan.
I am quite gutted that I didn't have the social conscience to think of Be My Eyes, which is a really cool app. So you describe things that are happening. So for example, like the Oscars the other evening, you could volunteer time to describe what was happening on screen for people who are visually impaired. So if they can't view what's on TV, for example, you can like dedicate your time to describing what's happening. And it's just a really nice, socially good thing to do. And I just think that whoever's thought of that is obviously really selfless and wants to make the world a nicer place.
I'm not following up after that one.
He's furiously going through his phone. He was swiping left and right. I don't know what he was doing. One more question, do you think? Yes, one at the back there?
Without naming names, what's the biggest nightmare you've kind of run into during the course of app development? So we're like, right, it's done on Android, then when's it on iOS kind of thing? We've got no extra budget, or what's the biggest nightmare you've got through development?
The biggest nightmare you've went through at a development phase?
Don't say gym plan.
No, I was saving that.
1 month after we raised our financing round, thank you very much, North Star. Google launched Google Photos, which was what we were going to build, and yeah, that's that's one app I wished I did. I don't know why I keep
very diplomatically, but I think dealing with projects that involve lots of partners.
Okay.
So if you're building an app for a client, but then they have part of a supply chain, for example, where they need their suppliers to give things to you, or even worse, their suppliers to supply their suppliers with things that end up going through them to you, things can get really complicated really quickly, and that's where you start getting huge delays and just really unforeseen, uncharted territory, and you think, is this ever going to end? And am I ever going to get paid for any of this? Yeah.
Does anyone want to add to that? Or?
It's not as good as Dylan's answer, but I was just going to say there's some things that Apple do are a bit rough around the edges, shall we say, at the start. It's like we were one of the first, this was Gym Plan, one of the first apps to integrate recurring auto-renewing subscriptions into the app, and that was very rough around the edges, and we were one of the first apps to do it. There wasn't much support out there. Getting in touch with Apple is difficult, as you can imagine. Like, who do you call? Right? So kind of those things where, as Radu says, you want to be picking up the new stuff, you want to be showing off how great Apple are, so they feature you. Trying to do that as soon as possible can be difficult before the kind of resources are out there and the teething problems have gone.
Good stuff. Okay, I think we'll leave it there. I just need to mention Gym Plan one more time, so that's 10. That's 10. I had to get 10 in tonight. Thanks for attending South Tyneside Business Week. There's more activities on tomorrow. Thanks for the panel. Yeah. Thanks to Sintons for sponsoring us tonight. Thank you so much. And thanks to Lee. So Lee looks after all our going live and all the cameras, but he's 15 seconds delay, so he doesn't actually know we're talking about him right now. So let's give him a round of applause. And thanks so much for coming. We normally have beer afterwards, but the beer's before now. So Lindsay, do we have to go now? All right, okay, we might have 10 minutes and 10 minutes to network, and then we'll head off, yeah? Okay, thanks so much for coming. We'll see you next time.